Welcome to the Developmental Trauma and Attachment podcast and webinar for clinicians. February's focus is Attachment 101, where we will be exploring everything you need to know about the basics of attachment. Join us today as Josh Carlson, Associate Director of the Knowledge Center, introduces us to Kaylee Will and gains her perspective on attachment, on using the DTAP model, and on what it's like working with students who have experienced disruptions in their attachment relationships.
All right. Well, hi everybody. My name is Josh Carlson. I'm the Associate Director of the Knowledge Center here at Chaddock. And today I'm here with Kaylee Will, one of our therapists here. Kaylee, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and your role and what do you do here at Chaddock?
I am a residential therapist here at Chaddock. I've been here for about 2 years this month.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've worked with a couple of populations while I've been at Chaddock. So I started working in a Poon cottage. So I was with the older girls, probably about 15 to 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
And then recently just transitioned to Simon Cottage. So I'm working with the younger kiddos, about 8 to 11.
Okay, awesome. So today we're talking a little bit about attachment and attachment theory and attachment-based services. So when you hear that word attachment, what does it mean to you and how does it apply to the work that you do?
Mm-hmm. I think the first word that comes into my brain when I think about attachment is everything, because it kind of means everything.
Yeah.
To me, just because it impacts our attachment relationship, it impacts everything that we do. They impact our the rest of the relationships that we form throughout our lives. They impact the way that we feel about ourselves, the way that we feel about other people, the way that we feel other people see us, how we feel like the world sees us, and really how we think about the world. So I think as a general sense, it means everything.
Yeah, no.
To me, but I guess more specifically, when I think about attachment, I also think about safety. And I guess I should think more specifically, too, because that's really more about secure attachment than it is about insecure attachment.
Right.
I think of feeling safe.
Yeah. What I really liked, what I heard you saying, what I really liked is that attachment has everything to do with felt safety. Mm-hmm. It's about how we build and form relationships that create an environment and facilitates an opportunity to see the world as a place that you can go out to and that you have those attachments to come back to. You have that home base, that secure base to go back to.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
When I went to the Attach conference this year, I think Bessel van der Kolk talked a lot about that concept of, attachment being a place where you can go home to. Yeah. And when we have a place to go home to, some like extremely scary or adverse experiences, they tend to not impact us as much because we have a home base, we have people to come back to that help us to feel safe emotionally and physically.
Yeah. Well, and I think the concept that a lot of people can relate to is, like I have a 18-month-old, and so he, if we're at the park, he will take so many steps and then look back and kind of check into that home base, that secure base. Am I safe? Looking at my reaction, like encouragement of, oh, you can go a little further. And he'll go a little further and then he'll look back and maybe it's too much, so he'll come running back. Have that security, have that moment. And then he feels safe again to not go just that far, but maybe even a little further. And so I think I think a lot of us can see that on our day-to-day lives, but it's a really great example of like that concept of attachment. Yes. And that secure home base.
Yes.
Okay. So what are some symptoms, or what are the behaviors or things that kids are trying to overcome or challenges that they're having that you see in working with kids here and trying to provide those attachment-based services?
We see a lot of things, especially in the residential setting. I think we see a lot of things. So I'm thinking about a lot of the behaviors that we do see in the cottages, and what they all come back to. And I think it's that that fear of relationships and the fear of trusting other people based on, you know, the trauma or attachment difficulties that they've been through throughout their lives. So I think that that's what I see most often, is that the kids, they have a fear of trusting other people or a fear of building relationships that manifests itself in so many different ways, whether that's aggression or pushing people away through, you know, a number of different ways. Or, you know, the exact opposite, you know, the kids are so afraid of other people hurting them that they actually, you know, go toward the fear instead of away from it. So, you know, those boundaries get crossed where they're just kind of invading your space, or, you know, they have that fear response of fun where they're doing, you know, a lot of complimenting you, or, you know, really trying to warm up very quickly to you.
Yeah. Well, and that just makes me think of complex trauma, and that a piece of complex trauma is that the traumatic experience happens within the context of the primary caregiving system, mom and dad, or whoever that caregiver is. And when that pattern gets broken, that person who was really there to nurture them and help them thrive can actually become a threat to their very existence. And so that's what we see, that aggression, that pushing relationships away, because, well, mom and dad couldn't do that for me. They didn't give that to me. In fact, they did the exact opposite. So why would you be any different? And so the challenge is then that attachment-based work of overcoming that kind of lens of how they see themselves and how they see the world.
Yeah. And I think too, you know, one of the big things that I see is that shame response, and how very deeply ingrained that shame response is for the kids. And even, you know, midway through, almost at the end, you know, we see a lot of those shame responses that we've worked on so much, or a lot of those self-esteem issues that we've worked on so much, you know, they start to come back. I think that's coming up for me because we have several kids who are kind of at that place. And, I think it's just a reminder of how deeply ingrained that shame response can be in kids with attachment difficulties, and what an impact really that attachment has on our lives. It's the first things that, you know, we try to do after we're born, and you know, trying to help these kids, you know, see themselves as worthy when their primary attachment figures did not help them to see themselves as worthy.
It's such a profound concept, and we so often forget about all those moments of how often babies get those positive experiences, and when they don't get those positive experiences, and in fact maybe get the negative experience, how that can create challenges that cascade all, you know, as they grow up into the preteens, into adolescent years, into early adulthood, for the rest of their life. And it's not about fixing things. It's not that anything's fixed, because as you said, even towards the end of treatment, some of those things can come back up. It's kind of like, is this for real? Is this really changing? Am I changed? Can I do this? Or are my parents in a different place? Or are my adoptive parents in a different place? Can they support me and help me get through these struggles, even though they're kind of coming back up for me after a while? So, okay. So when you think about those things that the kids here are going through, and you think about our treatment model, the developmental trauma and attachment program model, what does, how do you use that to kind of help you and your approach in supporting the kids that you work with?
I think the DTAP model helps me see the kids as whole people, instead of just seeing the behaviors or the symptoms that the kids are presenting with. It helps me really look at the child, you know, as a whole. So, and it drastically changes, you know, the way that I'm responding to the kids. Mostly in that, you know, it's not about what they're doing, it's about what you need. So, you know, it stops becoming, you know, stop doing that. It becomes, you know, let me help you, and let me be with you, or, you know, oh my gosh, because, you know, like we said, a lot of our kids they can do really annoying things, and they can do really obnoxious things to, you know, push you away. or try to get the attention that they're so desperately looking for. And so, a lot of times when kids are doing some of those things, we have a tendency to be like, oh my gosh, like this is too hard. Like I need some space from this. And the DTAP model really helps me to, say, come sit next to me and let me help you give you what you need.
Right.
And help you, figure out if you're not sure what you need, let me help you figure out what it is that you need so we don't have to ask for attention in these ways.
Yeah, I think you did such a great job articulating that. What I heard you say is that this treatment model helps you look at the child and those behaviors, those things that the child brings to you, and helps support you in becoming that secure base for that child.
Yes.
Right? So even when they're pushing away, even when they're doing behaviors that are really challenging to deal with, and maybe pushing away the very thing that they want, which can be confusing for caregivers, it really helps you to be able to step back, have some empathy for the child, and really say, what's underneath the behavior? What is it that you're needing? How can I meet that need? How can I be that support? But you think about, back into early infancy, that little baby is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Wow, I need something, I need a new diaper, I need to be fed. And sometimes those behaviors can be challenging, but that's, the parent's job to figure out, to become attuned to the child and say, what does this cry mean? How do I best meet this need? A lot of parents get to a place where they know, is this a cry that I need a new diaper, or I need, that I'm hungry?
Right.
And it's kind of just recreating that experience.
Right.
It's really beautiful when you think about it that way.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think it's one of, the only treatment models, at least that, I've seen, that really focuses on that relationship piece, not just with the kids, but with, parents too. We create, a secure base relationship for parents too, where we can reflect and where we can, really talk about what's going on with the parents, so they are getting, the care and what they need too. Right. It's not just about the kids.
Well, it sounds like you just created another interview or another discussion for us to have, is about how we do that with parents. That's a whole nother topic, but it's so important and so integral, because we talk about how the family system is our client. It's not just the child, it's that whole family system, which includes mom and dad and siblings, and how do we support them as well.
Right.
So what might be a piece of advice for a clinician who's doing attachment-based work that you might give from your experience that you've had here at Chaddock, doing attachment-based services, getting trained in the DTAP model? What's one piece of advice you might have for them?
Patience. I think just because attachment difficulties are some of the most, severe, they take the longest amount of time to be able to work with. And it's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard. And so I think that you have to have a lot of patience for yourself and give yourself a lot of grace, but you also have to have a lot of patience, for the children and the families that you're working with. And I think sometimes, I like to remember that Rome was not built in a day, and safety is not either.
Right.
It takes a lot of time. It's not 1 week, it's not 5 weeks. It can take a great deal of time. So, you just have to have a lot of patience with yourself for learning, the model, and also with the kids that you're working with, because they've been through some really rough stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they need that time to trust you.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day and spending some time with us here at the Knowledge Center to understand the work that you do and that Chaddock does, and maybe help others know what we do, so that they can learn from our experience and how to use attachment-based services to support the clients they're working with.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Developmental Trauma and Attachment Podcast and Webinar for Clinicians. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Knowledge Center at Chaddock on Facebook for future episodes and for more in-depth content from the Knowledge Center. For further resources and training opportunities, log on to the knowledgecenter@chaddock.com. We hope you'll join us again next time.